Here now with us, and for more, is Tennessee Senator Marsha Blackburn. Senator, thank you for joining us in these days after Christmas as we head into the new year, as Hanukkah continues on as well for the Jewish community. And I think that father's utterance here about the timing, it says everything, because Joe Biden's president until January 20th, God help us. But he could have done this in the first week or the second week of January. But instead, he ruins Christmas and Hanukkah, whatever people are celebrating, the end of the year for these families, which, of course, they've been suffering ever since they lost their loved ones.
You're exactly right, Tammy. They are suffering every day and they grieve every day. Joe Biden has shown a complete disrespect for the rule of law, for judges and juries, and, as we were discussing, for victims and their families. And what he has done is try to make criminals into victims. And one of the things I think is so interesting about this passel of commutations that he pushed through is Merrick Garland reviewed all of them. Joe Biden and Merrick Garland decided that they would not grant commutations to the Boston bomber, the synagogue shooter, or the Mother Emanuel shooting. Now, I wonder why it was they left out those three heinous, horrible crimes. Is it because those were elevated to national attention? And did he think that Samantha Burns and the others, the children, the mothers, the military officers that were killed, that he could get by with those commutations? I find this vile. I find it disgusting. And what we are learning about Joe Biden and this disregard for the rule of law and this move that this administration has had for 4 years, they have worked overtime to make illegal legal. They have worked overtime to say it's not the criminal's fault. Maybe it's the victim's fault. Well, maybe it's law enforcement's
I have to say, Senator,
fault.
I have to say that
this is one of the reasons the American people have had it.
Yeah, there's two things he's mentioned. First, that they didn't want to commute sentences of people who'd committed hate crimes. And one of my arguments against the hate crime legislation is, in order to accomplish this, you have to elevate certain kinds of hate or feelings against certain kinds of people and deflate, eliminate, lower the impact or the seriousness of the murder of other kinds of people. But we know that all murders all involve hate of one type or another, and this becomes an ideological infection of the justice system itself. But I'd like your comments on his remarks about essentially that he did this because he didn't want the Trump administration to undo his work in a moratorium on the federal death penalty. But isn't it true that it's not about Joe Biden's work or Donald Trump's work? This was the work of a judge and a jury and a community and families and everyone involved in the dynamic of what happened and the terror that they all continue to live with, the families, but those who found bodies and who knew them and were best friends, and for the community that will never have those children or the grandchildren. And yet it makes it about him and that, or about President Trump, when in fact, it's a jury that suffered over making this decision and said that deserves the death penalty.
Indeed, he has shown that disrespect, as I said, for judges, for juries, for the rule of law, for the victims, for these communities, for the survivors of these crimes, those that are left to grieve every single day. But Tammy, Joe has tried to make this administration all about him
Right.
and not about the American people. And we see this repeatedly. And in this move, with these commutations, with these more than 1,500 pardons that he has dished out, we are seeing it yet again. This administration has practiced two tiers of justice from day one, and they are going to go out the door with two tiers of justice being one of the hallmarks. I think this is one of the reasons that Joe Biden will be remembered as one of the worst presidents ever to sit in the Oval Office. And it is why the American people, like a Tennessean I ran into today going to the grocery store, this guy was a Democrat, and he said, Marsha, I hope we get Joe Biden out of there before he does much more that is going to hurt us. And I think that's where the American people are.
Sure.
And we're looking forward to having President Donald Trump and having
sure are.
Pam Bondi at the at the Department of Justice. And I'm so glad Mitch McConnell stopped Merrick Garland from going on the Supreme Court. When you think about an attorney general who would allow Joe Biden to do these commutations.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, a lot has been changed now. Just this one election, the American people have made a huge statement. And it's not just Joe Biden. He's a reflection of the party itself. Senator Blackburn, thank you so much. Thank you, and I hope you had a Merry Christmas. I'm sure you did. Thanks for